Hey everyone, this is Saad. Today I wanted to discuss one of the interesting topic I've been trying to catch up on for a long time is the RBAC, specifically in Microsoft Intune. How can we manage the RBAC and how can we play around with scope taggings and how we can delegate access to the right people within the right time. I wouldn't say within the right time because it's not a just-in-time access, but it's kind of like a permanent territory for them to access their stuff. So the topic of the day is RBAC, role-based access control in Microsoft Intune. So I came up with this scenario just to make sure I'm able to explain properly because if we have a scenario, then we will understand better. So the scenario is here kind of like we have an Intune, we will create an Intune custom role. And let's say this is a fictitious government agency and we have multiple, let's say it's a fictitious government organization and it has multiple agencies. So for example, in our case, we have three agencies here. And all three agencies are sharing a one Microsoft Intune tenant. In other words, like one Azure AD and O365, M365 tenant. And there are multiple agencies, and the headquarters IT is it has more rights. Let's say they are global admins and they are Intune admin. But their agency help desk, they don't want their device admins, like local agency admins, to be a global admin or help or the Intune admin to poke around in their tenant. So they came up with this approach that every agency will have limited access and they will create a custom role and assign them to those agency admins. So agency one, agency two, agency three. So first, what they will do, they will let's say their organization is hasn't done any sort of RBAC before, so their devices have a default scope tag. So I'm going to get into the scope tags a little bit later, but just to let you know that the scope tags are the pointers on those objects where you wanted to tag with something, right? For example, let's say if you go in airport, right, and you have your luggage, and there is a big line. Everybody has a luggage, and they put the tag on the luggage. So you know that this tag belongs to this XYZ customer, right? Even if you come across the somebody else's luggage, then you won't be able to use it uh, because that's not your tag. So similar concept here. So we're gonna put tag or stamp. We're gonna put tag that, let's say this is the agency one tags and agency two tags and agency three tags. Only this territory is for only for agency one to manage, and this territory for agency two to manage, and this territory is agency three to manage. And Intune tenant in general have, like, let's say enormous amount of objects present, devices, users, policies, configuration profiles, blah blah blah, right? And pretty much everything can be tagged. So first thing, the first biggest challenge for the IT, like headquarter IT, is to tag appropriately everything inside the tenant because that's the first step to go towards the RBAC. So they started tagging their objects, and regardless of their agency, let's just don't discuss the concept of agency for now. Just like Intune as a general, they wanted to tag every object sitting in their Intune portal. So they started tagging. So let's say like they split it into three tags. The tag is agency 01 admin. Oh, sorry, that's not a tag. The tag is servers, workstations, mobile. You can tagging uh, by anything, whatever makes sense to you. In my scenario, I am tagging by the device types, like servers, workstations, and mobile. Generally, that's another approach I have seen, but most of the times that I had seen tagging is by the geography or by the location or by the the agency name or by the team name, just like that. But just to keep it simple, so I can explain it you better, because sometimes this RBAC topic might be very complex because it's unfortunately the documentation is not very easy to understand. So I am tagging my entire portal, including not the entire portal. I'm not going to touch the policies and all that kind of good stuff, but I'm just going to show you in this example how to segregate the devices. So I have three flavors of devices in Microsoft Intune. I have servers, I have workstations, and I have mobile. Even though you can't tag the servers, but I just did it anyway here. But we will be focusing on workstations and mobile. But I do have some servers coming up from my co-management, so you will be able to see the servers anyway. So these are the tagging. So headquarter IT just start tagging, and let's say at this point everything is tagged. All the resources are tagged with three different tags. Servers like 2008 servers on 12 servers, 19, right? They are tagged with the servers tag. Any Windows-based workstation, either it's laptop, Surface, or any sort of uh, personal computer, is tagged with the workstation tag. Any mobile device, whether it's Android, mobile, Windows Phone, or iOS phone, is tagged with the mobile tag. So we got three tags here. So now the headquarter IT, the next challenge is they need to assign these tags appropriately. They know their agency 01 is experts handling servers. They know their agency 02 is experts handling workstations in Microsoft Intune. And they know their agency 3 is experts handling uh, the mobile devices. So now the challenge is agency 1, when the agency 1 admin logs in, they shouldn't be able to see the workstations and the mobile devices. And when agency 2's people logs in, the Intune tenant, they shouldn't be able to see the servers and mobile devices, right? And when the agency 3 admins log in, they should be able to see the servers and workstations log in. So basically, when agency 1 logs in, they shouldn't be able to see workstation and mobile. And we need to do additional segregation that I'll explain to you when I get into that practical or lab experience here. So that's the Intune, that's a scenario. So just kind of go over what RBAC is in general. So let's start with, I have a screenshot here. So there are two types of roles management. Actually, there are three types of technically you can do in Azure Infrastructure as a Service as well. But since we are just focused on Azure Active Directory, we're gonna focus on two, only one in Microsoft Intune. But just kind of show you here that Azure Active Directory itself has a role management capability. So Azure Active Directory offers multiple roles. Those are more powerful roles than Intune provides and offers, right? For example, Azure Active Directory has a role called Azure Infrastructure, sorry, Global Administrators, Intune Administrator, Conditional Access Administrators, right? So these are the security administrators. So these are the roles offered by Microsoft these are the roles offered by Azure Active Directory. The reason I put this thing to your attention that because somehow the Intune management is dependent on the Azure Active Directory role. How? If the person is global administrator, you know that it's the big guy. Like the global admin has pretty much access to all the resources across the Azure Active Directory tenant, right? Including Intune or other services as well. Another role is Intune Administrator. So whether either the person is global admin or Intune Administrator, as long as the person has one of these roles, the person will be able to manage pretty much everything inside Endpoint Management Portal, like Microsoft Endpoint Management. It's also called Intune Management Portal. So if you are Intune Administrator, that means you are technically a global administrator of Intune, right? Not a global administrator of Azure Active Directory, but it's like Intune administrator, like full control across Intune tenant, Endpoint Manager tenant. So let me bring up the article here. Second. Okay. So this is the article. I'm going to put the link of this article in my video as well. So Global Administrator and Intune Service Administrator, also known as Intune Administrator, has full access, right? Uh, if you are a global admin and Intune admin, you can manage scope tags, you can manage roles, right? Inside the Intune, right? But if you are Intune administrator, you won't be able to manage the Azure Active Directory roles. But if you are global administrator, you will be able to manage everything inside the Azure Active Directory, and Intune is also part of Azure Active Directory. So let's just focus going forward, not to make things more complex, just going forward, only focus on Intune administrator. So as an Intune administrator, you can manage pretty much everything in Intune. When I say pretty much everything, you can manage scope tags, you can manage roles inside the Intune. You can delete device, configure things, blah, blah, blah. So these are the two roles I wanted to mention. Okay, so I am gonna use the Intune administrator to configure all the good stuff today. So roles are offered by Microsoft Intune. So these roles are specifically designed to manage your Endpoint Manager portal. Same scenario, keep in mind when you have multiple teams, multiple agencies, multiple locations, and sharing one tenant, this is where you need this role, this segregation, like RBAC segregation. Intune does offer out of box. Intune does offer like predefined um, default roles that you just go and assign things inside the role, right? Or you can just clone that role or create your custom role, right? So these are the default roles like application manager. For example, application manager, you can just self-explanatory by its name. It manages mobile and manage application, read device information, and can view device configuration profile. Endpoint security is manages security and compliance features. Help desk operator performs, this is the most common role I have seen, perform remote tasks on users and devices and can assign application or policies to users or devices. I don't believe the delete option is enabled for this team, but I will double check. I haven't had a chance to go into each role to look at the permissions. Intune role administrator manages custom Intune role and assign. So if you wanted to, if you trust somebody who can manage the role, you can assign Intune role administrator. Please keep in mind all of these roles are embedded, or if you are Intune administrator, you don't need all of these roles. These are less, Intune administrator is higher privilege, has higher privileges than all of these roles. This is just to further down the Intune administrator. Policy and profile manager manages compliance compliance policy configuration profile, Apple enrollment, corporate device identifier, security baseline. Read-only operator reviews, user device enrollment, blah, blah, school administrator for Windows 10, Intune education. Here comes the custom role. So we're gonna create a custom role, and we will set up some permissions inside the custom role. Okay, this is important. So the reason I gave you, the reason I discussed a little bit about the Azure Active Directory and Intune, so you understand it better, this slide here or this page. So if these on the left side, these are Azure Active Directory role. On the right side, it tells you how much control they have on Intune. So these are the two big guys. Global administrator, pretty much everything, read, write to all the Intune. If you are Intune administrator, same thing. Intune, blah, blah. But if you go other way around, like Intune Administrator, and if you say like Azure Active Directory data here, that Intune Administrator won't have access to the Azure Active Directory. So number one, number two, both has, and if you talk about Intune, both have full access to the Intune. Conditional access administrators from the Azure Active Directory, none. And this is the one, I'm not going to go all of them, but if you see that rest of them are just a read only or none. So these are the two significant one. And the third one is security administrator. So security administrator, technically the read only, but full administrative permissions for endpoint security node. Okay, so that's something to check before you assign security administrator to somebody. It's not a read only, but it is a read only with the full thing. Every time when you create a role or you use a predefined role, the role assignment is important. So role assignment is something defined like which users are assigned to the role, what resources they can see, and what resources they can change, right? These verbiage and wordings, quite honestly, was a little confusing to me. For example, like this thing, if I read it for you, I only got it clear when I started doing my lab by myself, and then I was able to make sense of this thing. For example, like if the user has multiple role assignments, permissions, and a scope text, those role assignments extend to different object as follows, and how it follows. So assigned permission and scope tags only apply to the object in that role's assignment scope groups. Assigned permission and scope tags don't apply to objects in other role assignment unless other assignments specifically grant them. So I'm going to go over each of this concept a little bit more when I get into the practical lab. So that's from the another important piece I wanted to share here. Let me see. Okay, second. Okay, so I wanted to share like assign a user to the role. So global administrator, Intune administrator, that's pretty self-explanatory. Create a custom role. Second, these are permissions. So these are the custom permissions that Intune does offer. Like I'm not gonna go into each of these custom permissions. There are a lot, but I did put something together in our lab, so we can go over together. And the scope tags. The scope tags are like the tags concept we discussed earlier. Okay, all right, it's time to jump on a lab here, and I'll show you. Okay, let me get back to my Visio diagram one more time. All right, so so what I have to accomplish this scenario. Okay, so far what I did the scope tag, and I'll show you how to do it. I did it, but I'll show you again. So what I have, it's all about the security groups. So what I created is uh, I created three set of security groups. Okay, the one is for the human beings, like agency admins, right? So let's say agency 1 admin, agency 2 admin, and agency 3 admin. So here, agency 1 admin is help desk 01, agency 02 admin is help desk 02, and agency 3 admin is help desk 03 person. So these are the person who will be managing devices only for their agency users, right? So we got this figured out. We have the group and we have the admins inside the group, and the group called agency admin 01, agency admin 02, and so on and so forth. That's the first set of group I created. Second set of group is the agency 01 employees. So I did not want agency 1 to manage the agency 3 employees or users, right? So that's why I segregated my users and isolated from each other's each agencies, that the agency 01 and agency 02 and agency 03. Agency 01 employees are sitting in the agency 01 security groups and so on and so forth. And since I don't have many users, so I just added one user here. So demo user 01 is a part of agency 01. That's just an end user, like an employee. And demo user 2 and demo user 3 is for agency 03. So two set of things we already discussed, and the third set is the agency devices, right? So I do not want to manage agency 02 admin to manage agency 01 devices, right? So so agency 01 device, I put it together in this group, and that's I put it like servers because agency 01 admin only knows how to handle servers, and agency 02 devices are workstations. So because agency 02 admin only knows how to handle workstations, and agency 03 is for the mobile devices. So we got 9 security groups and 3 categories, like employees, admins, and devices. Pretty simple. Okay, so now let's hop on my lab here. And so I'm logged in as an Intune admin for now, just to show you what I have here. So if I go to devices and all devices, so I have like bunch of devices here, including iOS device, Android device, oops, Windows device. And under Windows, we have servers, for example, like ADFS server. We have file server 01, file server 02, and we have some co-managed devices. But the long story short, that we have 3 categories: the Windows, iOS, and then the servers, right? Sorry, Windows, mobile, and servers. In mobile, iOS and Android, Windows uh, only workstations and personal computers, laptops, desktops, and in servers, the non-Windows, sorry, the non-personal computers like Windows Server, the actual server operating system. So this is what I have so far, and this is just a landing page of Intune. You go to devices and you go Windows. You can see all the Windows devices here, including workstations and servers. It's loading. Okay. Okay. So that's Windows. That's iOS here. That's Android. And you can see that I have full access. I can do anything. I can delete device. I can enroll device. I can do any configuration as an Intune. I can go to the device. I can see all the options here. Retire, wipe is not available just because of the nature of the device is enrolled as personal. But my point is I have full access to do any sort of activity. So that's something I wanted to show you as it. So let's assume I'm sitting at the headquarters. I am the Intune admin, and I wanted to create this scenario for my 3 agencies. Okay. So let's go to the security group. So I have this security group set up. So if I show you here, okay. So I have agency employees, I have agency admins, and I have agency devices. So agency 01 devices mobile, agency 02 devices workstations, agency 03 devices servers, right? And agency 01 admins. So if you look at that agency 01 admin, it's help 01. And agency 02 admin member is help 02, and agency 03 help admin is help 03. And if you look at the agency employees is 0 demo user 1. Agency 2 employees are or is um, agency 02 employee is 0 demos user 2, and agency 03 employee is demo user 3. Okay, and the most important part is the devices. So I filtered the devices. You can either use a dynamic group query to filter. I mean, since I have like a small number of devices, I just did it manually anyway, but there are ways you can catch the devices by using a dynamic query on the group. So if I show you here the mobile devices part, so I show you the members. So all of these are mobile devices, including Android and iPhones. Second is my Windows workstations, because you may see this list bigger than the list I showed you in Intune, just because the grouping I have done in Azure Active Directory, and Azure Active Directory has some stale objects as well. Those are not active in Intune and in roles, but I pulled those objects in this group anyway, just for the sake of clarity and neatness. And number three is servers. So all of my servers are listed here. Cool. So I have three categories set up. So now let's go to the Microsoft Intune. Okay, so let's see. Endpoint Manager portal. Okay, so first thing first, as an Intune admin, you have to log in and go to the tenant administration. Tenant administration, and it's called roles. So under roles, you have to do everything under roles you have to do. So the first thing is, as an IT and at headquarters, I know that I don't have a proper taggings in my tenant. So that's the step number one for me to actually uh, do the role-based access for my agency. So what I did, I came up with an approach like agency 01 will be handling the mobile devices, agency 02 will be handling the workstations, and agency 03 will be handling the servers, right? I think Visio is kind of slightly opposite, but I'll change the Visio anyway. And the default tag is always sitting in any object you create in Intune, whether it's policy, device, uh, configuration profiles, default tag is always hooked up to that object. So these are the three scope tags. I already created it, but I will show you how to create this. So as an Intune admin or global admin, you go in the tenant administration roles and scope tags and hit create and you give it a name of the scope tag. For example, I would say like Disneyland, right? And then next, and then where you want to assign, let's say there is not an option to assign scope tags to all users and all devices, unfortunately, but there might be some wisdom behind that. I don't know the technicality, but we may or may not see that option in future. But for now, it's just add groups, because if you do the all user and all devices, that's also a default tag. But if you want to assign this Disneyland to the devices, for example, let's say like the set of devices like Beam devices, or like say Beam devices, when you hit select, when you hit next, and then all of these devices will be populated with this new scope tag, right? I'm not gonna create it, but when you hit create, okay, you can do it. Or if I just create it and without assignment, just to show you how to create this, so this is how you create the scope tag. I'll just go ahead and delete it just to keep things clean here. So let's say I created these scope tags, mobile workstations and servers, and I assign it to them. So if I show you real quick here, the scope tag number one, mobile 01, right? Sorry, agency 01 mobile, and I assign it to agency 01 devices. That's mobile. So if I take you back here, agency 01 devices. So because we already cleaned up our devices and we put all the agency 01 devices to mobile, right? All the mobile devices went to the agency 01. So I assigned this scope tag to agency 01. That's the mobile devices. The similar thing, number two is the workstation. So I assign this agency 02 workstation scope tag. That's my scope tag name. And that's my scope tag assignment to the agency 02 workstation group. And I already showed you that agency 02 security group workstation has all the Windows PCs. Those are like personal computers, laptops. And similarly for the three, a third one is for the servers, and I assign it to the agency 03 servers, and the scope tag name is 03 servers. So once I assign these scope tags appropriately, it took like few seconds or sometimes minutes to populate those scope tags around my object. So for example, if I take you here, number one, agency 01 scope tags mobile. And if I have one mobile device here, so when I click on the mobile device, and when I go to the properties here, when I open, you see like agency 01 mobile scope tag is already assigned to this object because this object was a part of the agency 01 devices security group, right? So and you see that the default tag is there as well. Okay, and I have another mobile device, just kind of prove the concept that it's going to the mobile devices here. So Android device here, I click on my Android device here and mobile. So you see that 01 mobile device scope tag is there. Similarly, we assign the scope tags for Windows devices as well. So if you click on one of the Windows device here, properties, and you see that it's assigned to the Windows 2 workstation. So if you pick up any Windows computer here, which is non-PC, you will see the proper scope tagging. So the challenging part has already been completed, that the IT department at the headquarters was able to figure out how they can distribute and tag all of their resources across their tenant, right? So we have all the resources. Like I said, I'm not going to work in the policies, but if you want to do assignment to the scope tags to the policies as well, you can do that. So you go in here, for example, let's say like Windows and configuration profile, right? And when you click on configuration profile here, um, you go under the, I think, yeah, so scope tag is here. You can select the scope tags, but I didn't do it for the policy. Just wanted to keep things simple so you get the concept. Okay, cool. So now we have all the scope tags assigned. Okay, so that was the step number one. Step number two is, let's say step number one was to create appropriate security group. Step number two is to create a scope tags. Step number three, the most important one, is to create a custom role. So you go back in here as an Intune admin or the global admin under the tenant administrator, under the tenant administration and the roles. So I created a custom 03 app. So so if you look at the selected one, other than the selected one, that we have all these by default roles available in Intune. And since we are in the roles page, I wanted to show you uh, the roles in Azure Active Directory as well. Okay, so I wanted to show you here real quick. So you go in here under the portal.azure Active Directory, and then roles and administrators, you have make sure you are logged in with global admin, and you will see all the roles here. So this is definitely bigger list than we've seen in Intune. And one of the two roles here, like Intune Administrator and Global Admin, will have full access on your Intune tenant. So that's the first place. But we are focusing Intune, so I'm going to show you here real quick uh, the custom role. So we will be creating a custom roles, and I created this custom role 03. Okay, I gave it a fictitious name like Contosa Government Agency Admins, and this is what I am doing in this custom role. So I am providing this custom role, mobile apps full rights, enrollment programs, create, delete, update, assign profile, manage devices full rights, organization reads so they don't get the pop-up and error messages. Managed apps full, and roles read access to the roles, right? And enrollment program token is create, delete, update, and assign profile. So this is what I have been doing in this custom role, and I'll show you one by one. So enrollment programs, you see like update profile, delete profile, update token, create token. So pretty much all of them are set to yes. Managed apps set to yes. And manage devices, view reports, set primary users, delete, update, read, mobile apps. So now let's just click at it and see the actual thing. So device, let's start with the enrollment program. So enrollment program, update profile, delete token, update token, create token, delete profile. So you see like all of them are set to yes. After that, managed apps, you see this is set. But if you look at the other role, that's not, everything else is set to no. Okay. Second one, third one is managed devices set to yes. And mobile apps set to yes. Organization is only read. And roles read. So they can see the roles, but they won't be able to change it. Yeah. And the rest of the things are set to no. Yeah, everything else is set to no. So this is what I have created a custom roles, but just kind of spend few 30 seconds or so how to create a custom role. Like you create test 01, you give it a name here, and then when you hit next, you select the permission, you go to each permission and set yes or no here. So I created a custom role here, and when the next step is a scope tag. So this, don't be confused with this scope tag with the one which we created. So this scope tag is kind of like to manage this role itself. So just like, for example, if you want this role to be tagged, right, by one of those tags I created, right? This is what the tag is. So if I select the tag, so let's say if I had another tag called like agency 04 managing roles. So I would assign that tag here. So the agency 04 can only manage my custom roles, right? So since I'm just focused on the devices, I won't be able to do it. I'm not going to do this thing because if I put like mobile here on this scope, it wouldn't make sense, right? So this scope tag has nothing to do with this scope tag option has nothing to do with the scope tags which we created earlier. So when I hit next and then you review and then you create it. Once the role is created, the very important part of the role is the assignment. So let's say I created a role. This is the property, and you can see there is no scope tags for this role. I'm not going to talk about this scope tag here, otherwise I got confused by seeing the scope tag here, but this is just a regular scope tag, just like every other object has a scope tag option in Intune. So this is not a special scope tag place to configure. This is just like the regular scope tag. So important piece is assignment. So I wanted to assign this custom roles to all of my three agencies. At the same time, I need to make sure agency 1 cannot see and do any changes in agency 2 devices and the users and so on and so forth. So assignment number 1, what I did, I create assignment. So let me show you how to create assignment. So you create assignment, give it a name. For example, let's say like test 01. When you hit next, this is the place you assign the person, the actual a live person who will be managing the devices by following these roles and permission, right? Let's say you have John sitting in Australia and you are creating this role for John and for only for the Australia headquarters, right? So you will be adding the group where the John is added here, right? So in my case, I am since I created only one custom role for all three agencies, so I'm gonna add all three admins from all three agency group, right? So agency 01, agency 02 admins, and agency 03 admins, because I am fine having one custom roles for all three agency admins here, right? But if you have multiple custom roles, let's say if I had three custom roles for all three agencies, then I would have only added one uh, admin group here. Scope groups. This is important. So a scope group is is to further uh, uh, like to limit these admins uh, to manage those objects. So when I say limit these objects, since I had a scenario that the agency 1 shouldn't be able to see and manage the devices of agency 2 users, right, and employees. So in this case, you can either say like, you can add add groups here. So if I show you here, agency 1, sorry, not the admin, agency 1 employees, 2 employees, and 3 employees, right? So you can add the employee there. So basically, what you're saying here is, sorry, one second, it should be, okay, perfect. So I just needed to refresh things, see how confusing this topic is. So let me explain you the role assignment again, but I'm gonna be a little faster this time. So let's say test 01 and admin group. So you can have multiple assignment in one custom group. So for example, the assignment number 1 is for agency 01. So let's give it a name. You can agency 01 assignment, right? It exists. I would just call it new or for demo. Okay. So agency 01, because this assignment is specifically for agency 01, so what you would do, same concept that I was explaining, like this place admin groups, like you look for the admin groups who will be assigning the agency 01. So here, agency 01 admins, right? What they can assign, they can only assign agency employees, agency employee 01. So they can only assign agents. So we basically limiting our admin groups to work within this territory only, right? So whatever is inside the 01, they can only assign the 01 employees, right? So we're talking about the user. So I added the user, which is the demo user 01, and help 0. So technically help 01 can only assign the demo user 01. Tags. So this tags does two things. So one is, if you assign the tag, for example, I know that the agency 01 admin is expert with the mobile device. So I will assign the mobile devices. So anything which is tagged with the mobile, agency 01 will be able to see that, right? And they will be able to manage mobile device. That's number one. Anything is created by agency 01 will be automatically tagged as the agency 01 hyphen mobile. So two things. This will do two things. So let me repeat. Anything which is pre-tagged ahead of time with this tagging, like agency 01 hyphen mobile, will be seen and will be managed by this admin group, agency 01. Anything that will be created, and let's say like this admin group has a right to create a new policy or new device or new configuration, that will be automatically tagged with this tagged. And when you hit next and then done. So this is how I did the assignment in this role. So let me start over real quick and we'll be super fast to finish this. So here, the apps, sorry, the custom roles, permissions, and all that good stuff. And under the assignment, I created 3 assignments. So agency 01 assignment. So let me show you here. So what I did, the admin group is agency 01 admin group. Is scoped. I scoped this admin group to only manage the agency 01 employees. And I know that the admin group will only be able to see the mobile devices scope tag. Similarly, for the agency 02 assignment, what I did, I added the agency admin 2 group and employees agency 02 employees. And for 3, agency 3 admins and employees. So we have everything set up. So technically what we are saying that agency 1 will be only able to see all the mobile devices, and they will not be able to see the Windows devices, and they will not be able to manage the user, let's say like a demo user 2, that's the employee of the agency 02. Okay, so we have everything set up. So let me log in as an agency 01 admin first. Okay, so agency 01 admin is the help 01 account. So I'm going to use a different browser here. I'm going to go to Endpoint Portal. Help 01 is the agency 01. Keep in mind that is expert handling the mobile devices. Okay, so since I have a read access, so let's start with the devices. So let me go to the Windows devices, and I don't see any Windows device because the Windows devices are tagged with workstation, and workstation tag is not authorized for agency 01. But if I go to the iOS and iPad, I'll be able to see the mobile devices here. And when I go to the Android, I'll be able to see the Android device as well. So you see that only I assign the role to only for devices purposes, manage devices. See, the rest of the options are not are grayed out for me. I can't do anything here. So that's number one. So let's say if I go back to that role here as an Intune admin, what I did, let's say like enrollment profile, enrollment program. So I assign, create, delete, update, and assign profile, right? So let me get back to the agency 01 here and try to create an iOS profile here. Enrollment program token. So let's say like, let's do like enrollment types here. Okay, so enrollment type, I'm just gonna create a new enrollment type. Let me delete the old ones so we don't have confusion here. Okay, so I have deleted the old one. Let me refresh this portal, so it should have been gone now. Okay, so no enrollment types. Okay, so I am, keep in mind that I am logged in as a help 01. That is the agency 01 admin. So when I go to the iOS, let me create an enrollment types here. Enrollment types, right? Let's say like iOS enrollment type for agency 01 employees created by help 01 admin at agency 01. Okay, so let's go with the default settings. Okay, and now two things will happen. One is it will only allow me to create this profile. It will allow me to create profile anyway, because the profile creation in the role is like, if I show you my role under tenant administration role, and if you see the role permissions here, I can create a profile without issues, right? The the caveat here is I won't be able to add the users from the agency 02 or agency 03. So let's try that. So let's say add help 01 admin creates a profile and then add a user or employee that is not a part of help agency 01. So I would choose agency 02 employees on purpose here to see if it allows me to do that. So I chose agency employee 02, but I am the admin of agency 01. Okay, so when I hit next and create, so the profile is created. Let's say the sign. So this is kind of like a misleading, like assigned is completed, it shows the green check, but technically it's not assigned. So when you click on this profile, the profile is created very good, which is the expected result, but the assignment is not completed because it didn't accept the assignment. If I try to do again, let's say like agency 03 employees, when I hit save, it's saved, but it did not add it because it does not have a appropriate right. So, but now let's say like if I do the same thing for agency employee 01, and when I save it, and it indeed it worked. So basically what we did, agency 01 can only manage the objects that has a scope tag of mobile and only manage the employees that are a part of the agency 01. The same thing we can do by logging in with the agency 02 and then admin, and then we'll wrap up this video. If I go to devices, by the way, I'm agency 02 admin, so I shouldn't be able to see the mobile devices now. So if I go to the mobile devices, so no mobile devices visible for me. If I go on the Android, even though I have a read permission, but when I click on Android devices, they're blank. However, if I go to the Windows, it does show me the Windows devices. Those are, you might be wondering, like there was a long list in the security group, but now it's just very shrunk a small list because told you that that's a list came from the Azure Active Directory. The only devices enrolled in Intune are this much. So they are indeed the Help 02 is able to see the agency 02. Under the properties, if you look at the scope tags, the agency 02 scope tags are signed already. So let's do the same thing. So let's do the iOS thing and enrollment, and let's create an enrollment profile here as an agency 02, right? Technically, the agency 02 manages workstation, so they shouldn't be able to create a profile at all. But like I said, I wanted to make this thing not more complex. I created only one custom role, so I will be able to create the profile anyway because all the assignments are part of one custom role. But in a production environment, you should create multiple custom roles for multiple teams. So let's say like enrollment profile for agency 02 created by help 02 at agency 02. Okay. Hit next. Let's say user enrollment, it doesn't matter. And included group, let's say if I accidentally add agency 01 here, right? It shouldn't accept. So when I hit select, yeah, indeed, it didn't accept. That's assignment is blank. And when I do the agency employee 03, it shouldn't accept because I'm logged in as an agency 02, right? And when I do like properties, included group, and when I do agency 02, agency 02 employees, It should accept this assignment, and it did. Cool. So uh, I hope this was informational and helpful. I struggle to understand this RBAC thing, so I dig around a little bit here and there, catch up on other some documentations. So just wanted to share my knowledge and put everything together in one video. Thanks.